How do you spark desire in a woman who doesn't seem interested in you at all? Hi, I'm Lauren, and today we're diving into something most men never really get taught. You've probably experienced this. You meet a woman who feels incredible, you're drawn to her, but her interest just isn't matching yours. So you do what most men are told to do. You become nicer, more attentive, more available. Yet instead of closing the gap, the distance only seems to grow. Here's what most men misunderstand. You're usually not doing everything wrong. You're simply applying the right behaviors at the wrong moment in the wrong order. Attraction doesn't follow logic or fairness, it follows psychology. In this video, I'm going to break down 7 psychological triggers that actually generate attraction and desire. And I'll say this up front, the last one is the most influential of all. When used correctly, it can shift everything quickly, yet almost no one applies it properly. Before we go deeper, there's something important you need to understand. This was never properly explained to you. Not in school, not in upbringing, and certainly not in typical advice about relationships. Attraction in women isn't built on logic alone, it's driven heavily by emotion and subconscious evaluation. While you're focused on saying the right things or proving yourself as a good option, her mind is picking up on signals you're not even aware of. Studies in evolutionary psychology suggest that attraction often operates through mental shortcuts, automatic responses the brain relies on without conscious thought. Once you understand these patterns, you stop over-pursuing, you stop forcing outcomes, and you naturally shift into a man who is pursued rather than chasing. Let's begin with the first trigger, masculine presence. This isn't about physical size, appearance, or dominance. It's about how you carry yourself energetically. When you walk into a space, do you fully occupy it? Or do you subtly hold back and minimize yourself? Women pick up on this instantly. A man who moves with calm intention, who isn't rushed, and who isn't constantly seeking validation from others, communicates something powerful without saying a word. His presence alone signals self-worth. That kind of grounded energy is uncommon, and what's rare becomes attractive quickly. Picture yourself in a social setting. Instead of scanning the room for approval or overthinking how you're perceived, you stay relaxed, your posture is open, your breathing is steady, you observe without tension. That small internal shift changes everything. She doesn't consciously analyze it, but she feels it. Not because you're performing, but because you're anchored in yourself. Now the second trigger, emotional contrast. A lot of men fall into the habit of agreeing with everything a woman says. They avoid disagreement because they don't want to create discomfort, but attraction doesn't grow in pure comfort. It grows in contrast. Light tension isn't conflict, it's chemistry. When you gently challenge her or respond with playful disagreement, you create polarity, and polarity creates attraction. For instance, if she says she loves waking up early, instead of agreeing immediately, you could respond with a smile and something like, "Really? You don't seem like someone who's best friends with mornings." It's light, playful, and not insulting. That kind of response signals confidence. You're not trying to win approval. You're engaging her mind, not just accommodating it. And that spark matters. Attraction needs variation, not constant agreement. Let's move to the third trigger, selective attention. This is where many men unintentionally lower their perceived value. They respond instantly, they make themselves constantly available, and they shift their plans too easily. What this communicates without words is lack of priority in your own life. A man with direction doesn't revolve around one person. He has goals, responsibilities, interests, and relationships that already fill his world, and because of that, his attention carries weight. When you're not always immediately accessible, you create curiosity, not through manipulation, but through having a life that doesn't depend on her response. Scarcity of attention, when natural, builds interest. The fourth trigger is intentional listening. This goes far beyond hearing words. It's about remembering meaning and recognizing emotional detail. When you recall something she mentioned casually days earlier and bring it up later, it immediately sets you apart. Connection grows when someone feels genuinely noticed. For example, if she once mentioned liking orchids and later you send a picture of one you saw and say it reminded you of her, that creates a strong emotional impression. It shows awareness, presence, and attentiveness. That combination, attention plus emotional strength, builds attraction more effectively than surface-level compliments ever could. Now the fifth trigger, calibrated vulnerability. Many men believe they must appear completely unaffected or emotionally untouchable. But perfection doesn't create connection. Authenticity does. When you confidently share something real, such as a challenge you faced or a fear you've worked through, without seeking pity or validation, you become relatable and grounded. The key is balance. Vulnerability without emotional collapse builds trust, and trust is what allows deeper attraction to form. True strength isn't hiding your experiences, it's owning them without losing stability. The sixth trigger is gradual physical connection. Research shows that appropriate, light physical touch can increase bonding responses in the brain by activating oxytocin, the hormone associated with trust and connection. This could be something subtle, like a brief touch on the arm during a shared laugh, or a natural, respectful brush of the shoulder while walking together. Nothing forced, nothing premature, just natural, situational contact. These moments help the brain associate your presence with comfort and familiarity, deepening emotional connection over time. And finally, the seventh trigger, the most powerful one, controlled unpredictability. The brain is highly responsive to dopamine, which is strongly influenced by anticipation and uncertainty. When someone is slightly unpredictable in a healthy, balanced way, they become far more engaging. This doesn't mean being inconsistent or unreliable. It means avoiding rigid patterns. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you step back, sometimes you're highly expressive, other times more reserved. You maintain a sense of mystery without losing emotional stability. That variation keeps her mind engaged even when you're not present, because she can't fully predict your every response. Now you understand the framework. These aren't tricks, they're behavioral principles rooted in psychology. The important part is how you use them. Not to manipulate, not to perform, but to communicate value, stability, and depth in a natural way. You don't need to become perfect, you need to become intentional. And once you do, everything about attraction starts to change.